2025 is here and we of course are going to continue creating videos for you. Also, something that never changes is we offer Windows 11 Pro retail keys. For just $12.50, purchase one today and you are good to go for the end of the year when Windows 10 is end of life. It has been 7 years ago that this trailer from The Elder Scrolls 6 was released. Yes, already 7 years, absolutely insane. And in the meantime, a lot of stuff actually happened. Of course, this is the year we're going to see 2 new Oblivions. We have now, of course, the Oblivion Remaster recreated in Unreal Engine 5. In my opinion, looks great, runs great, plays great. So very well done by Virtua Studios. However, we're also going to see, of course, Skyblivion later this year. But also, in the meantime, we have seen Starfield, and this was the actual latest game from Bethesda in their new Creation Engine 2. So they did announce at that time that this new Elder Scrolls 6 will also be created with Creation Engine 2. However, Starfield of course has been a little bit underwhelming. But then again, what do we actually know about the Elder Scrolls 6? There are so many rumors, there are so many fan theories. So what I did in this video is I did do a deep dive in everything credible, rumor, maybe you can still name it rumor, but all the credible facts we do know so far about the Elder Scrolls 6. What new techniques can we expect? Because this game will not be released in at least 3 or 4 years. So if you looked at the past 5 years, how fast technology went, and even especially since the release of the official trailer, what can we expect from the Elder Scrolls 6? We're going to deep dive to that in this video. Let's be honest, gameplay over graphics of course, graphics are not everything, but in 2025 they are definitely a big part of the experience and the immersion. And right now something strange is happening in the Elder Scrolls universe. On one hand, you've got fan-made versions of Skyrim that look absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, I've showcased a lot of these videos so far from Skyrim fully modded. We have insane complex lighting, dense forest, 4K textures, etc, all with Creation Engine 2. So modders have pushed a 2011 game to look something from the future, and definitely something which has the same amount or the same quality of graphics like modern games have. And then of course we have official Oblivion Remaster built using Unreal Engine 5, and it is truly visually stunning. I mean, we have these lush landscapes, rich lighting, realistic materials, and this feels truly like a proper leap forward. And then there is Starfield. So this is not a bad looking game, it has its moments, especially in cities, ship interiors, but a lot of players felt the visuals didn't quite measure up to the either modded Skyrim, like I agree with, or modern Unreal Engine 5 games. So we still have the character faces which look a little bit lifeless, stiff animations, and on the consoles especially constant loading screens. In my opinion, on PC, especially with an NVMe SSD, I didn't really experience those issues. So what can we say about that contrast? Well, this is not just meme material, because this actually creates real concern about what the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to look and feel like. Because here's the thing, Starfield was the debut title for Bethesda's new Creation Engine 2. And that engine, like I said before, is confirmed to power the Elder Scrolls 6. So when a heavily modded Skyrim or a remastered Oblivion visually outshines your brand new flagship title on Creation Engine 2, it of course raises questions, not only about the graphics, but about deeper things. So is Bethesda's engine, the Creation Engine 2, really keeping up with the times, especially when we can expect the Elder Scrolls 6 years from now? So are they prioritizing tech innovation, or are they just relying too heavily on what's familiar to them to develop games? And maybe most importantly, can they deliver a game in the Elder Scrolls 6 that not only captures the magic of the Elder Scrolls, but also looks like it belongs to the next generation? So these aren't just cosmetic concerns, because graphics tie directly into immersion, storytelling, and how alive the world feels. The lighting, animations, physics, these things for me, or at least for everyone, I would say, truly matter. So I would say before we dive into these rumors and future tech, we need to look at where we are right now. Bethesda's last big release that sets the baseline. But the bar, modders and even Bethesda's own side project have already raised it with the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered, of course. The biggest question is, will the Elder Scrolls 6 meet or exceed that new standard? Let's talk about what we know so far. Let's get to the most important thing, that is the facts, what's officially known about the Elder Scrolls 6. It all started back in 2018 at the E3 when Bethesda of course dropped its famous 30-second teaser. Just a sweeping landscape, we had a logo, boom, internet goes wild, it fully exploded because that tiny glimpse was enough to fuel years of hype and speculation we're still doing right now also in this video. At the time, the Elder Scrolls 6 was only in pre-production. Fast forward to 2021 and Todd Howard confirmed the game had moved into the design phase, but real progress didn't really start until after Starfield shipped in late 2023. That's when the bulk of the team finally shifted focus to the Elder Scrolls 6. Then in early 2024, last year during the series' 30th anniversary, Bethesda revealed something big. Internal builds of the Elder Scrolls 6 were now being playtested. However, that doesn't mean the game is anywhere near done, but it does mean that we have core systems which are taking shape. So the game world exists in some form, and developers are starting to create mechanics, environments, and engine performances. So that famous engine, Creation Engine 2, this one, like I said earlier, is the same one used in Starfield. And that stirred up some debate. So Todd Howard has been pretty clear, the Creation Engine exists to support what Bethesda does best, creating massive dynamic worlds with deep player freedom. And he said, quote unquote, what we do is so unique in the skill of what we do and the agency we give the players. In short, what this means is they believe their own tech is still the best fit for their design goals, especially when it comes to systematic gameplay and modding. And on that note, luckily we can confirm modding support is going to be there, because of course Bethesda community has kept all their games alive for decades and making it more popular than ever. And they're definitely not going to walk away from that anytime soon. As for the platforms, the game is of course coming to Windows and Xbox. They said no PlayStation, but I have to say that decision, we've seen stranger things being stranger situations of games being released to PlayStation still, because I think the micro situation has changed a little bit regarding that. But that decision, original decision, was essentially locked in when Microsoft bought ZeniMax Media. So love it or hate it, the Elder Scrolls 6 was or is supposed to be part of the Xbox ecosystem with Xbox and PC only. But we're going to see, of course, maybe it's going to be a timed exclusive and it will be released to PlayStation later. So regarding release dates, well, don't count on anything soon. Leaked documents from Microsoft's court battle with the FTC suggested 2026 was the very earliest date, but more realistically 2028. So Todd Howard has hinted also to a 15 to 17 year age gap between Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls 6, which tracks with those estimates. On a more lighter note, Bethesda did confirm that Shirley Curry, the beloved YouTuber known as the Skyrim grandma of course, will appear in the game as an NPC. So I really hope Shirley is alive still at the time, but what I heard so far is that she is now the Oblivion grandma in the Oblivion Remastered, which is pretty cool. So the thing is, where are we? Well, the game is real, it is in development, it's not being cancelled, and it looks like Bethesda Engine, Creation Engine 2 is going to be still their choice of interest. But beyond that, we still have a lot of mystery. So this brings us to the more fun parts, but also I would say more thought out than most rumors we see online. So which are the more credible, believable rumors, believable leaks, and where in Tamriel we might actually be headed, because that's also of course still a little bit of a debate. Alright, it is time to leave all the confirmed facts behind and dive into what fans really love, the speculation. But this is not just speculation based on nothing, this has been speculation based on research. That is different than all the Reddit threads for what could we see, what would you like to see, etc, etc. So ever since that brief teaser dropped in 2018, the Elder Scrolls community has gone full detective mode of what they can find. So that one slow pan video across Rocky Mountains and the coastline, it has been analyzed frame by frame for years to set all kinds of ideas and actual detective work of what we can expect. So first is going to be the setting. Where could the Elder Scrolls 6 be actually set? The strongest theory is going to be Hammerfell. This is the homeland of the Red Guards, and the teaser's terrain, which we saw, so the rugged cliffs, dry bush, and the distant fortress, lines up pretty well with Hammerfell's geography. So, also some fans even pointed out the sound of seagulls in the background, and this is a very small detail, but one that might support a coastal location. The architecture we glimpsed could also match the Redguard style, which has clear North African and Moorish influences, and it will be a fresh aesthetic for sure for the series, so one we haven't seen in the mainline game since Daggerfall. That said, the second option could be High Rock. High Rock could still be on the table, and some would argue that the landscape could fit the more temperate northern region of the province, and then with that we also come to somewhat of a third possibility, both region. Hammerfell and High Rock border each other, and revisiting, that region from the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall could be an epic callback. I mean, it would let Bethesda mix between climates, cultures, and just two continents for the first time in a single game. Now let's talk about leaks we've seen, and reliable leaks, so not just based from nothing. In 2023, during the Microsoft vs FTC legal proceedings, a trove of internal planning documents surfaced. So some of those mentioned the Elder Scrolls 6 with an internal target window of 2024. And this obviously didn't happen, but other leaks like the Oblivion Remastered turned out to be actually pretty true and accurate. So while timelines shift, there's at least some credibility here. And we also saw mention of a Fallout 3 remaster, suggesting that Bethesda might continue revisiting old titles while the Elder Scrolls 6 stays deep in development. And it can be done, of course, because Virtuous Studios can do this the same way like they did with Oblivion. But again, sometimes plans change. I mean, Starfield likely pushed back everything. So what about story? Well, fans are, of course, always speculating wildly, but also with good reason. Because there's a ton of interest in exploring the aftermath of the Great War between the Empire and the Talmor, and the uneasy peace in Skyrim could be breaking down, and that would be like a good timeline to, work upon that. Some believe the Elder Scrolls 6 might dive into espionage, rebellion, or even an all-out war between the Almeri Dominion. So others hope for a return for the classic Elder Scrolls political intrigue, factions, trying having control, deep regional conflicts, morally great choices, and we've seen that Ruined Fortress in the teaser. Many believe that is more than just the scenery. It might be a major plot location. So gameplay theories are just as ambitious, better, more reactive factions, more complex reputation systems, and of course improved combat, which many feel is long overdue. I have to say, I'm not really sure what to expect story-wise. I really hope it's going to be something really, really big. I really loved Skyrim, the entire Dragonborn quest line, with all the dragons. It, for me, felt truly, truly epic, and it's going to be a big, big challenge for the Elder Scrolls 6, to come with a more epic story in the Elder Scrolls 6 game. So remember, these are just theories. Bethesda is always playing their cards closed. And with no new footage since 2018, it's pretty hard to speculate much about the 30-second teaser. But, we've seen these leaked documents from the FTC, and at least we know something from these leaks is true, and that is that the Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remaster did happen. I would say definitely the Fallout 3 Remaster will happen. And regarding the other leaks, Elder Scrolls 6 release date, I would aim for 2028, and if you're going to see next-gen consoles, that would definitely be a launch title for sure. Since the release of the Oblivion Remastered, one of the biggest points of debate about the entire Elder Scrolls 6 conversation is, should Bethesda stick with their Creation Engine 2 or make the leap to Unreal Engine 5? So let's start with what we know. Starfield launched using Creation Engine 2, so it brought some upgrades, it had better lighting, more detailed environments, But many players still felt the visuals and animations didn't match what modern engines can deliver. So, of course, we have the infamous potato face from Bethesda. It is somewhat still around, to be really honest. The problem, I think, is with Creation Engine 1 and 2 is that the NPCs feel really lifeless. Especially, I've been playing a lot of Last of Us Part 2 and Last of Us Part 1 before that on PC, and the animations and acting is just exceptionally good. One of the best I've seen ever in a video game. And then when you switch to the, or I should say, especially a modded Skyrim, it doesn't deliver anything. So yeah, Bethesda's potato face is still there, but even worse, or not all, but definitely some of the known bugs from Creation Engine 1 are still there in Creation Engine 2. So meanwhile, we've got Unreal Engine 5, and we've seen that not only from the Oblivion Remaster, but also constant new stunning tech demos are being released. I also would say that one of the biggest games I've seen so far is Body Cam, which looked so realistic, that we are now finally at the point where sometimes I can't really see the difference between game and realism. So that's really, really good. So also major games like the next Witcher, the next Tomb Raider are also going to be developed using Unreal Engine 5. So it's probably going to be looking incredible, lush, atmospheric, especially for an open world game like the new Witcher. However, there is a twist in all of this. This remaster wasn't entirely running on Unreal Engine 5 from Oblivion Remastered, because under the hood it still used the original game engine for logic. So quests, physics, the NPC AI, and Unreal Engine 5 handled the graphics layer. So this is something which has been overlooked a lot, or a lot of people don't even know this. They think it has been fully developed in Unreal Engine 5. But actually this was more of a hybrid, not a total engine swap. So that makes it tempting to think Bethesda could think of maybe taking a similar path with the Elder Scrolls 6. So this means keeping Creation Engine 2 for the gameplay systems, but layer on a modern renderer or advanced visual tools inspired by Unreal Engine 5, or just using Unreal Engine 5 to do that. So switching to this or switching engine is definitely not just plug and play, because Creation Engine and Creation Engine 2 is deeply tied to how Bethesda built its games. We have the vast systematic open worlds, we have the NPC schedules, massive object interactivity, and crucially, of course, modding, because this is also where this channel is built upon, Skyrim modding, and this is really be a part of Bethesda's DNA. Because Skyrim, of course, has survived over a decade thanks to its moddability, and Bethesda's Creation Engine Kit gives players that deep access to the game's internals, working with it. And the Creation Kit, so not to be confused with the Creation Engine, really is a very, very well usable tool to create mods. So Unreal Engine 5 doesn't offer that out of the box. To match it, Bethesda would have to develop an entire new modding framework just to maintain what their fans already expect. So there's also the studio side cost, so retaining hundreds of developers to work in a totally new pipeline, building new tools, rewriting systems, that could add years to an already long development cycle. On the other hand, Creation Engine has baggage, its roots go all the way back to Morrowind, and some of that old DNA just still causes issues. So critics argue Creation Engine 2 still feels like it's dragging legacy problems forward, and I have to agree. I've seen some of the same issues, NPCs being stuck or quests being stuck in Starfield, and almost the same way we've seen it on Creation Engine 1. So also when it comes to things like animation, physics, lighting, Unreal Engine 5 is just way more advanced right out of the box. Also, of course, we have MetaHuman, which really also allows very easy face capturing, motion capturing, and I would say that's definitely needed for a 2025 game. So, what is more likely then? Bethesda has already confirmed they're going to use Creation Engine 2 for the Elder Scrolls 6, but that doesn't mean it is standing still. So after the mixed reception of Starfield, they know it needs to evolve. We can probably expect a heavily upgraded Creation Engine 2, so even better lighting, probably smoother animation systems, modern tools, all tuned specifically for Elder Scrolls 6. So a full switch to Unreal Engine 5? Probably not. But the hybrid approach like we've seen with the Oblivion Remastered, that could still be on the table, especially if they want to reach modern visual standards without giving up, the systems and especially modability. That is so super important. So the bottom line of this chapter, the engine choice we're going to see for the Elder Scrolls 6 is far more than just a tech decision, because this is going to be a strategic move that's going to affect how the game plays, how it looks, but also how the modability is after its launch. So I would say this might be the key to whether the Elder Scrolls 6 feels like a proper generation leap, but also a prettier version which has that modding support, which is so important. Let's say Bethesda nails the visuals and the setting, well, that's still not enough to make the Elder Scrolls 6 truly next gen. So what could? The answer? Well, it might be closer than we all think. Of course, it's going to be AI. And not just for flashy gimmicky stuff, but for actual deep game-changing systems that make the world feel more alive than ever before. So let's start with the most obvious one, the NPCs. So for years they have been locked into the repeating stupid lines and stiff routines, but what if they could actually talk to you with some sense? Not with pre-written dialogue trees, but with real-time AI-driven conversations. So we are already seeing the early stages of this. Mods like in-world AI for Skyrim and Mantella allows players to speak freely with NPCs. Not only by typing, but actually using natural language, by using a microphone to literally speak to NPCs. So if you combine that with the voice synthesis from tools like 11 Labs, you've got NPCs that respond voiced in real time, but also actually sound very convincing. So for now it's still sometimes rough, but I have to say 11 Labs is truly at the point where it is sometimes hard to not hear this is AI. So really amazing technique, and I think in 3 or 4 years we have no idea at which level we are already regarding AI driven voice lines and conversations. Also, there is NVIDIA's ACE, and this is the Avatar Cloud Engine. So this is designed to give game characters memory, personality, and even realistic facial expressions driven by what you're saying to them. So some early adapter games, there are some games which are already experimenting with this technique. So you can now imagine the Elder Scrolls 6 NPCs that remember your choices, develop opinions about you, and behave differently based on how you have treated them. So imagine emergent dialogue, and not just like yes traveler, but real responses that evolve over time. So that's going to be immersion on a whole new level, and we are already at the edge of this, coming of course to games in a near future. But AI, it's not only about talking, because I would say AI could definitely also reshape quest design. An example, Bethesda already uses procedural generation for things like Radiant quests like fetch quests, an example, kill this, kill that. But what if AI could actually generate storylines reacting to your playstyle, an example, your relationship, and the state of the world itself? So can you give me an example? You might ask. Sure. An example, you kill a merchant in a city. So 2 in-game weeks later, an example, their relative hires mercenaries to track you down. Or a faction you ignored grows unchecked and starts, influencing nearby towns. These kind of cause and effect storylines could happen dynamically, not just from scripts, but from systems responding to your actions in real time. It's not going to be, of course, very unlimited in a way, because that would cause all kind of weird glitches. But I would say Bethesda could give these NPCs some kind of borders, only like literally say to them, hi, you're this character, you live here and here in the game, so behave like that. And I think AI is relatively smart to do that. And we actually had already a taste with a relatively older game, the Shadow of Mordor's Nemesis system, and the Elder Scrolls 6 could take that concept further. So if AI is used not just for the content, but also for the consequence in the game. And it doesn't necessarily have to stop there. I mean, we could see these seamless open worlds in the Elder Scrolls 6 with fewer or no loading screens, like in GTA 6, an example. GTA 6, GTA 5 really did do that well. We could have physics-based interactions, so let players actually break, build, and reshape the environment in meaningful ways. And I'm not talking about base building stuff. And in example also, we can have persistent world states where your action visibly change how towns grow, how factions rise or fall, or how characters live and die, and I would say that definitely adds more to an Elder Scrolls game than ever before. And of course, the trade-off is complexity. More systems, more AI, more emergent behavior, all of it means more potential for bugs, and Bethesda games already got quite a bad reputation in that department. But if they can harness these tools smartly without losing control of the experience, the Elder Scrolls 6 could go far beyond just saying Skyrim with better graphics, because it could feel like an entirely new kind of RPG and an entirely new kind of Elder Scrolls. And I would say that's what people are really waiting for, not just a new Elder Scrolls game, but at least not a new traditional Elder Scrolls game like Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, but with truly new techniques and new technologies. So let's go to the conclusion. Where does that leave us? Well, the Elder Scrolls 6 is shaping up to be definitely one of the most anticipated RPGs of all time. But anticipation is usually a double-edged sword. An example, expectations are so sky high, not just for graphics or world building or combat or the setting, but for everything. So Bethesda is most likely going to stick with their creation engine too, but I would say we can expect it to be pushed further than we ever saw before, and especially more than in Starfield, which is their only reference game in creation engine 2 so far. The Oblivion Remastered showed us what is visually possible, and that is insane graphics. But also, of course, regular Skyrim Special Edition, the modding community has proven that its Creation Engine 1 game can still surprise us with the most wonderful graphic mods we've seen so far. But the visuals are just one part. I mean, the real next-gen leap should come from something else. Most likely AI conversations, but also dynamic systems, player-driven consequences, things that can make the world react in a deeper, more personal way than ever before. And then the million-dollar question is going to be, will Bethesda actually deliver on all of that? Well, they know what is at stake, because the Elder Scrolls 6 isn't just another RPG, a random RPG. This is going to be the future of one of gaming's most beloved franchises, and I would say the future of all RPGs maybe ever created. The Elder Scrolls is definitely one of the most popular ones, and the Elder Scrolls 6, it needs to be something very, very special. And we're living in a world where indie developers and modders are setting new standards every year. And heck, even Bethesda's own Oblivion Remaster made by Virtuous showed what, graphics can do through a fantastic RPG like Oblivion. So, what do you want the most from the new Elder Scrolls 6? Mostly graphics, visuals, a new engine, an example? Do you want smarter NPCs, deeper systems? Or do you just want to have a classic Elder Scrolls like Skyrim on steroids, but that's pretty much it? So drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious what you guys think, and hope to see one of my next videos.